The salvage ship Aurora drifted quietly at the edge of human space. Its engines hummed with steady rhythm, keeping the crew of 6 in a calm but watchful state. For weeks, they had searched the far sectors for lost cargo, wrecked ships, or alien scraps that could be sold for profit. Most of the time they found broken parts or nothing at all. But on this journey, the scanners picked up something strange, something that did not match any known record. Daniel, the captain of the Aurora, leaned over the console. He was a steady man, not quick to speak unless his words carried weight. His eyes narrowed as the reading stabilized on the screen. It showed a structure, larger than a transport ship, floating with no movement and no signal. Its surface reflected almost no light, as if it absorbed everything around it. "What do you see, Mara?" Daniel asked his engineer. Mara adjusted the scanner with sharp precision. "It looks like a container of some kind. Not a ship, not a station. Its surface is too smooth, too exact. Almost like a coffin." Her voice carried a mix of wonder and unease. The crew gathered around the display. Tomasz, the youngest, chuckled nervously. "A coffin? Out here? You think someone launched a giant tomb into space?" No one laughed with him. The image on the screen carried a heavy presence, even though it was only numbers and lines. The object floated in silence, unmoved by time or gravity. It was shaped like a massive sarcophagus, its sides carved with patterns that looked both alien and ancient. Daniel made the choice without hesitation. "Set course for it? We are salvagers. If this thing is real, it could be valuable beyond measure." The ship moved forward. As they drew near, the details became clearer. The sarcophagus stretched almost 100 meters in length, its surface black as midnight. Strange markings etched across it glowed faintly with a dull blue shimmer, pulsing like a heartbeat. The glow made the crew uneasy. It was not the steady shine of technology they knew but something older, more alive. "Radiation levels are normal," Mara reported. "Energy readings are high, but contained inside. Nothing dangerous outside the shell." Daniel nodded. "Prepare the docking clamps. We are bringing it aboard." The clamps locked onto the relic with a deep metallic sound. For a moment, the Aurora shook as if resisting the weight of the object. Then it settled. The sarcophagus was now theirs, sealed in the cargo bay. Inside the bay, the crew gathered to see it with their own eyes. The size of the relic dwarfed them, its surface towering like a wall of night. The markings shone with soft rhythm, filling the room with a glow that seemed to move across the walls. Tomasz stepped closer, hand reaching out. "It feels warm," he whispered after touching it. "Not like metal. More like skin." Daniel pulled him back. "Do not touch it again. We do not know what this is." The crew exchanged worried glances. They were salvagers, not explorers of alien mysteries. Still, the thought of leaving it behind never entered their minds. Something in the presence of the sarcophagus held them, as if it had been waiting for them all along. Later that night, while the ship drifted on autopilot, Daniel sat in his quarters reviewing the data. He listened to the faint hum of the engines and the occasional creak of the hull. Yet even in silence, he felt watched. The readings showed energy patterns inside the relic, shifting like a storm locked in a cage. There was no sign of life, yet it did not feel dead. His door opened with a hiss. Mara entered, her face pale. "Captain, I cannot sleep. I hear something in the bay." Daniel frowned. "What kind of sound?" She shook her head. "Not sound. A voice. Like a whisper in the mind. It started when I went to check the power flow near the clamps. It felt like someone speaking, but I could not understand the words." Daniel rose at once. Together they went to the cargo bay. The room stood quiet, but the air felt thick, as if charged with unseen current. The sarcophagus pulsed gently, its light casting shadows that seemed to move on their own. Daniel listened carefully. At first there was nothing. Then, faintly, like a breath carried across space, he thought he heard it too. A murmur, distant but real, brushing against the edges of thought. He steadied himself. It is only our minds playing tricks. Fear makes us hear what is not there. Yet as he turned to leave, the markings on the sarcophagus brightened for a single heartbeat before fading again. By the next day, the entire crew felt the weight of it. Tomasz complained of dreams filled with darkness and stars that moved like living eyes. Mara worked with shaking hands, double-checking every system as if to distract herself. Even the quiet pilot, Anya, admitted that she felt uneasy every time she passed the bay. Daniel called a meeting. They sat together in the mess hall, their faces tense. "We need to decide," he said. "Do we keep this relic, or release it into space and move on?" Tomasz was the first to speak. "We keep it. Do you know how much this could be worth? No one has ever seen anything like it. This could make us rich." Mara shook her head sharply. "We do not even know if it is safe. It is not technology we understand. What if it is dangerous?" Anya added softly, "It feels like it wants something. As if it is not just an object but a prisoner. What if it should not be freed?" Daniel listened in silence. He weighed their words, but deep in his chest he already knew his choice. They were salvagers, yes, but also pioneers of humanity. If this relic carried danger, then it was their duty to learn it first before others stumbled upon it blindly. And if it carried power, then perhaps it was meant for them. "We keep it," he decided at last. "We will guard it and study it until we know what it is." The crew accepted his word, though unease lingered in their eyes. They returned to their duties, each one aware that their lives had already changed. The Aurora moved forward through the silent sea of stars, carrying with it the sarcophagus of endless night. What they did not know was that the relic had felt their presence long before they touched it. It had waited in the dark for hands willing to carry it. And now, at last, it was awake. The Aurora carried its silent prize through deep space. The crew worked as usual, checking systems, repairing minor faults, and watching the scanners. Yet no task felt normal anymore. Every corridor seemed darker, every sound louder. The sarcophagus in the cargo bay had changed the air of the ship. It was no longer just a relic. It was a presence. Daniel rose early from his bunk. His dreams had been restless, full of shifting shadows and voices he could not understand. He washed his face, put on his jacket, and walked to the bridge. Anya, the pilot, sat at her chair, eyes on the starfield. She looked tired, her hands gripping the controls even though the ship was on autopilot. "You have not slept," Daniel said quietly. She shook her head. "I tried. Every time I close my eyes, I hear it. Like someone calling my name, but far away. Do you hear it too?" Daniel hesitated. "Sometimes. I try to ignore it." Anya glanced at him with worried eyes. "It is not only a voice. It feels like it knows us. Like it is learning about us when we sleep." Daniel placed a hand on the console. He could not argue. He had felt the same, though he refused to admit it aloud. He left the bridge, heading to the cargo bay once more. Inside the bay, the sarcophagus pulsed faintly with blue light. The markings on its surface were clearer than before, as if lines had deepened overnight. Daniel walked slowly around it, studying the glow. He kept his distance, remembering the warmth Tomasz had felt. The air near the relic felt heavy, like standing before a storm. Daniel listened. The whisper was faint, almost below hearing, but it was there. A murmur without words, brushing against the edge of thought. The bay door opened behind him. Mara stepped inside carrying a toolkit. Her eyes were sharp but her hands trembled. I came to check the clamps again, she said. But I also needed to see it. I cannot keep away. Daniel watched her circle the relic. She stopped suddenly, staring at one section. The glow has spread, she whispered. Look here. The lines were shorter yesterday. Now they run across the whole side. Daniel's jaw tightened. It is changing. Mara nodded slowly. Captain, I do not think it is just a container. It is alive. Not in the way we know life, but in another way. Before Daniel could reply, a sudden thud shook the bay. The lights flickered. Tamash's voice crackled over the COMM. Captain, come quick. We have a problem. They rushed to the medical room. Tamash lay unconscious on a bed, his skin pale, his breath shallow. One of the crew, Lena, stood beside him with fear in her eyes. I found him near the sarcophagus. He collapsed without warning. He just touched the surface again, and then he fell. Daniel clenched his fists. He was told not to touch it. He said it was calling to him, Lena whispered. He could not resist. Mara scanned Tamash with a handheld device. No injuries, no poison, no sickness. His mind waves are strange, though. Almost like he is dreaming while awake. Daniel leaned close to the boy. Tamash. Wake up. For a moment, nothing happened. Then Tamash's lips moved. Words slipped out, soft and broken. None were in human language, yet the sound chilled everyone in the room. It was as if something spoke through him. Then he went silent again. Mara pulled Daniel aside. It is not killing him. It is using him. Daniel's mind raced. Was the relic trying to speak? Was Tamash only the first? He looked at his crew. Fear filled their eyes, but also curiosity. The unknown had always drawn humanity forward, but this unknown was dangerous. That night the ship's systems began to fail. Lights flickered in long corridors. The air system slowed, leaving the rooms heavy and cold. The crew ran from panel to panel, fixing circuits that showed no sign of fault. Every time they thought the ship was stable, another problem appeared. It felt as if the Aurora itself was being tested. Anya called Daniel to the bridge. The navigation controls are showing false readings. The stars are shifting on the screen, but outside the window they remain steady. Daniel stared at the false display. It is inside the systems. Mara shook her head. No. It is inside us. The systems are fine. It is our minds that are changing. Daniel ordered them all to gather in the mess hall. He stood at the head of the table, his voice firm though his heart was heavy. We brought something aboard that is not just a relic. It is active. It is aware. We do not yet know if it is friend or enemy. But it is speaking to us in its own way. It touched Tamash, it reaches into our dreams, and it may even be bending what we see. From this point, we watch it closely. No one touches it again. Do you all understand? The crew nodded, though their fear was clear. When the meeting ended, Daniel returned to the bay one last time before resting. He stood before the sarcophagus, staring at its dark glow. The whisper in his head grew stronger, not words but feelings. Hunger. Loneliness. Hope. He shivered as the meanings filled his mind. He reached out his hand but stopped inches away. He would not touch it. He would not give it that chance. Still, he could feel the warmth even at a distance, as if it waited for his decision. Behind him, the door closed with a hiss. He turned, expecting a crew member, but no one was there. The bay was empty, yet the sound of the door had been real. Daniel stood frozen, watching the shadows. The glow from the relic pulsed once, brighter than before. He left quickly, his heart pounding. He knew one truth with certainty. The sarcophagus was not silent anymore. It was waking. The Aurora drifted through deep space, but peace no longer lived on the ship. Ever since Tamash had collapsed, the crew felt the weight of something unseen pressing against them. The sarcophagus pulsed more often now, as if it breathed with a steady rhythm. Daniel walked through the dim corridor toward the cargo bay. His footsteps echoed against the metal floor. He stopped before the bay door, his hand hovering over the panel. Part of him wanted to lock the bay forever, but another part knew that was impossible. Whatever the relic was, it was no longer silent. It was changing, and they had to understand it. Inside, the sarcophagus glowed faint blue. Shadows stretched across the walls in shapes that did not match the crew's movements. It felt as if the bay had grown larger, filled with unseen space. Daniel stood still, listening. The whisper had grown stronger. This time it almost sounded like words, though not in any human tongue. His heart pounded as the glow brightened, pulsing in time with his own breath. Suddenly a hiss broke the silence. A seam appeared along the surface of the relic, splitting open by the width of a finger. Blue mist slipped out, curling through the air like smoke under water. The mist did not rise or fall but moved with purpose, swirling around Daniel before drifting across the bay. Daniel stepped back, his voice steady but tense. "Mara. Get in here now." The engineer rushed in, her eyes widening at the sight. "It is opening. Captain, it is opening." The mist spread across the floor, glowing faintly. It did not vanish into the vents but clung to the walls and ceiling. Then it began to form shapes, twisting into tall figures with long arms and hollow faces. The shapes held for only seconds before melting back into mist, but each one left behind the echo of movement. Mara whispered, "It is trying to show us something." Daniel clenched his jaw. "Or it is testing us." The bay door opened again, and Lena and Anya entered with weapons in hand. Lena's voice shook. "The lights are failing across the ship. We saw the glow from the hall. What is happening here?" Daniel pointed to the relic. "It is awake." As they watched, the mist drifted toward the medical room where Tamash still lay. The crew followed, hearts racing. Inside, the mist surrounded Tamash's bed. His body stirred, though his eyes remained closed. His lips moved again, speaking in the same broken tongue as before. But this time the words carried a strange power. The lights flickered in rhythm with his voice, and the monitors flashed symbols not programmed into them. Suddenly, Tamash opened his eyes. They glowed faint blue, reflecting the markings of the sarcophagus. He sat up slowly, looking around the room with an expression that was not fully his own. Daniel stepped forward. "Tamash. Can you hear me?" The boy tilted his head, listening. When he spoke, the voice was deeper, layered with another tone. "We have slept for an age. You have opened the path." The crew froze. Daniel forced his voice steady. "Who are you?" Through Tamash, the entity answered. "We are the endless night. Once we walked among stars, but they feared us. They bound us in chains of silence. They buried us in this vessel. And now, your hands have carried us from the dark." The crew exchanged uneasy glances. Mara whispered, "It is not a boy speaking. It is the sarcophagus." Daniel's mind raced. He had heard tales of alien relics, but nothing like this. Something old had survived inside this prison, and now it was reaching out through his crew. The mist grew thicker, filling the room with a chill. Shapes formed again, this time clearer. They saw alien armies firing weapons of light against a shadow that consumed entire fleets. They saw planets falling under a wave of darkness, stars dimming in its grasp. Then they saw the same shadow captured, locked inside a giant coffin. The images struck their minds like memories, too sharp to ignore. Anya gasped. "It is showing us its history. This thing was trapped because no one could destroy it." Daniel clenched his fists. "And now it wants us to free it completely." The mist retreated suddenly, flowing back toward the sarcophagus. Tomasz collapsed on the bed, his glow fading. He breathed weakly, his own voice returning with a moan. Mara checked his pulse. He is alive. But whatever was inside him, it has gone back. The bay echoed with silence again, though the glow of the relic remained brighter than before. Daniel turned to his crew. We cannot pretend this is only salvage anymore. It is a prison. And the prisoner wants freedom. Lena's hands trembled around her weapon. If the aliens trapped it, then maybe they had a reason. If it gets out, what happens to us? To Earth? Anya shook her head. What if it is not an enemy? What if they only feared it because they could not control it? Humanity has survived by daring where others turn away. Maybe it is meant for us. The crew argued, fear and hope mixing in every word. Some saw danger, others saw promise. Daniel listened but gave no answer. His eyes stayed on the sarcophagus, glowing like a heartbeat. He felt the whisper again, not in his ears but deep inside his chest. It carried no words this time, only a feeling. It felt like hunger, but also like longing. Later, Daniel stood alone in the bay once more. The mist had faded, yet he could not shake the visions from his mind. He had seen entire civilizations fall before its power, yet he had also seen it reach for him as if he alone could understand it. He did not know whether it was truth or illusion, but he knew the relic was not finished. It had only begun. As he turned to leave, the seam on the sarcophagus widened slightly, letting out another faint curl of mist. The glow brightened for a long moment, casting his shadow tall across the wall. The aurora moved onward through the starfields, carrying with it something far greater than treasure. The sarcophagus was no longer silent stone. It was awake, and it was waiting. The aurora was no longer just a salvage ship. It had become a vessel carrying something ancient and dangerous. The crew went about their duties with tense faces, each step filled with caution. They whispered less, slept less, and watched the cargo bay as if it held a wild beast behind thin glass. Daniel carried the weight of their fear. As captain, his word bound them, yet he felt no certainty himself. The sarcophagus pulsed with steady light, stronger each day. It no longer felt like a simple relic. It felt like a heart. Mara worked endlessly, checking the ship's systems for signs of corruption. But every test returned normal. The lights flickered, the screens glitched, and the whispers lingered, yet nothing left proof. She finally slammed her tools against the wall in frustration. It is not in the wires, she said to Daniel. It is in us. That night, Daniel lay in his bunk but did not sleep. He closed his eyes only to see visions of shadows across stars. He heard voices, not in his ears but in his mind. At first they were faint, then clearer, as if someone sat beside him. "Captain," the voice said. It was low, deep, and steady. "You carry me." Daniel sat upright, breath heavy. The voice continued. "They feared me. They bound me in stone and silence. They called me endless night. Yet you, human, you hear me. You do not turn away." Daniel spoke aloud, though the room was empty. "What do you want?" The voice pulsed with the glow of the sarcophagus echoing down the halls. "I want freedom. Break my chains and I will give you what others could not hold. Knowledge beyond your age. Power beyond your wars. You will rise above the stars themselves." Daniel's hands clenched. "If you are so powerful, why did the others capture you?" "They feared what they could not command," the voice answered. "They were rulers of the galaxy, yet they could not bend me to their will. They chose to seal me away rather than accept what I offered. But you are not like them. You are human. You are small, yet bold. You reach where no one else dares. You do not bow. That is why you can hold me. That is why we can be one." The words echoed with dangerous beauty. Daniel closed his eyes again, fighting the temptation. It was not only a promise of power, it was a call to pride. Humanity had always been the young race, ignored by greater civilizations. To be underestimated was an insult every human captain knew too well. The next morning, Daniel gathered the crew. They sat in the mess hall, faces drawn with weariness. Tomasz was still weak but awake, sipping water while listening. Daniel looked at each of them. "It spoke to me," he said plainly. The room fell silent. Mara's eyes widened. "Through dreams?" "No," Daniel answered. "Directly. It calls itself Endless Night. It says it was betrayed, sealed away by those who feared it. It offers knowledge and strength to us if we free it." Lena crossed her arms tightly. "That sounds like a trap. If the aliens locked it up, they had a reason. Why should we trust it?" Tomasz raised his head weakly. "I felt it too, when it spoke through me. It is strong, yes, but I do not think it lies. It feels more like it is desperate. Like it needs us as much as we fear it." Anya leaned forward. Her voice was calm but sharp. "Think what it could mean. Humanity struggles to be seen as equal in this galaxy. Every council, every alien empire looks down on us. They call us reckless, primitive, unworthy of respect. But what if this is our chance to prove them wrong? If we take this power, maybe no one will ever push us aside again." Lena shook her head. "And what if it takes us instead? What if it uses us as tools, like a parasite? Do you really want to gamble the fate of our kind on promises from a prisoner?" The mess hall erupted into voices, half in fear, half in hope. Some argued that humans had nothing to lose, others that humanity would pay the highest price. Daniel listened in silence, his hands flat on the table. When the noise died, he spoke. "We cannot ignore it. Whatever it is, it chose us. It did not kill us when it could have. It reached out. That means something. But I will not decide alone. Each of us must choose whether we stand with it or against it." The crew exchanged glances. None spoke for a long time. Then Tomasz whispered, "I would stand with it." His voice was weak but certain. "It showed me stars I never knew existed. It showed me battles where it fought alone against whole fleets. I felt its sorrow. Maybe it deserves another chance." Anya nodded slowly. "I agree. Humanity survives by daring. If we turn away now, we remain what they think we are. Small. Weak. But if we accept this, we rise." Lena's voice broke sharp. "You are fools. You are letting pride blind you. What if it only uses us to escape, and then it destroys us like it destroyed the others?" Mara placed a hand on the table. "I cannot ignore the danger. But I cannot deny the chance either. If we are careful, if we hold control, maybe it could work. Maybe Daniel is the key. It speaks to him, not us." All eyes turned to Daniel. He felt the weight of their trust and their fear. He took a long breath. "I will not rush. We will not break the seal yet. But I will speak to it again. If it lies, I will know. If it tells the truth, then we will decide together." The crew accepted his word, though unease remained. That night, Daniel returned to the bay. The glow from the sarcophagus painted his face in blue light. He placed his hand near the surface, not touching, only close. The whisper came at once. "Captain. You feel it? The chain between us. You will not be like the others. Together, we will rise." Daniel's voice was steady. "If I free you, will you serve me? Or will you devour us?" The answer came like a tide in his mind. "I do not serve. I join. I do not devour. I share. Your strength will be my vessel. My power will be your blade. Alone, we are trapped. Together, we are endless. Daniel lowered his hand but did not touch the relic. His decision was not yet made. But one truth filled his heart. The endless night was not only awake. It was bargaining. The Aurora pushed forward through the cold stretch of stars. Its engines hummed, but tension weighed heavier than the silence of space. The sarcophagus pulsed brighter each day, filling the ship with a strange heartbeat. The crew spoke less and less, each one trapped in private thoughts of fear or temptation. Daniel sat in the command chair on the bridge. His eyes scanned the empty stars, but his mind lingered on the bargain. The voice of the endless night still echoed within him. Its promises of power pressed against his will. He wanted to believe it, yet every instinct warned him that power always came with a cost. The thought broke when the ship's alarm screamed across the bridge. Red lights flashed. Anya's voice rose in panic. Multiple contacts. Warships approaching from starboard. Daniel snapped upright. Show me. The main screen lit with images of dark ships cutting across space. Their hulls were sharp and silver, covered with markings Daniel had never seen. Each ship bristled with weapons. Their formation was precise, their movement fast. It was not random pirates or scavengers. This was a fleet. Mara's voice tightened. These are not human ships. Their tech is beyond ours. Whoever they are, they came for the relic. The comm system cracked alive. A voice filled the bridge, cold and commanding. Human vessel. You carry what does not belong to you. The artifact you tow is forbidden. Surrender it at once or be destroyed. The crew looked at Daniel. He stood tall, voice steady. Who are you? We are the Karel Dominion, the voice replied. Guardians of the prison you now desecrate. The relic you hold is death itself. Return it or perish with it. The message ended. Silence hung on the bridge. Tomasz whispered, they know what it is. Lena leaned forward, eyes sharp. We should give it to them. This proves it is too dangerous. We cannot stand against an entire fleet. Anya shook her head. And trust them. They will erase us the moment we hand it over. We are witnesses now. They will not let us live. Daniel's jaw tightened. He felt the weight of command. We do not surrender. Mara turned sharply. Daniel, if we fight, we die. We are already dead if we give in, Daniel answered. His eyes burned with resolve. If this relic is truly so dangerous, then why could they not destroy it themselves? Why guard it instead of ending it? They fear it. They fear what we might do with it. The words struck the crew. For years, humans had been treated as lesser by alien empires. The Karel might see them the same way, unworthy of choice. Perhaps the endless night was not lying. The enemy ships spread out, circling the Aurora. Beams of light cut across space, testing the shields. The hull shook with each hit. The crew scrambled at their stations, hands flying over controls. Shields at half, Mara shouted. We cannot take this for long. Anya pulled the controls, forcing the Aurora into a sharp dive. The small salvage ship twisted through space with agility larger warships lacked. Beams of fire missed by narrow margins, leaving streaks of heat across the shields. Lena fired the ship's cannons, but the blasts were weak against the Dominion's armor. We are gnats to them, she cried. The sarcophagus pulsed brighter, its glow filling the cargo bay and spilling through every corridor. The whisper rose in Daniel's mind. Use me. Let me fight. Together we can break them. Daniel gripped the console, sweat on his brow. He heard the battle outside, the screams of alarms, the groans of the hull. He felt the eyes of his crew on him. In that moment, the decision was his alone. Not yet, he growled. He would not give in so easily. The Aurora darted between two enemy ships, slipping through a narrow gap. Lena fired again, striking a weak spot near the engines of one vessel. Sparks erupted as the ship spun out of formation, but the victory was small. More Dominion ships closed in, forming a cage of fire. "Captain," Mara shouted, "we cannot hold. Shields are failing. Hull breach in Sector 3. Daniel stood frozen. Every path led to death. Every weapon they fired only delayed the end. The voice of the endless night pressed harder, louder than ever. "Free me," it urged. "Break the seal, and I will end them. They trapped me once, but with you I will rise. Together we will survive." Tomasz clutched the arm of his chair, his face pale but eyes bright. "Captain, maybe it is right. Maybe it is our only chance." Lena's voice cut like a knife. "Do not listen to it. If you open that coffin, it will take us all. Better to die human than become its slaves." The ship rocked again. Panels sparked. The alarm screamed louder. Anya looked at Daniel with desperation. "We need your decision now." Daniel closed his eyes for a breath, then opened them with fire. "Hold the line. I will not let them decide our fate." He ran from the bridge to the cargo bay. The sarcophagus glowed like a star, the markings burning brighter than ever. Mist leaked through the seams, curling toward him like living smoke. The whisper became a roar. "You see the truth. They cannot kill me. They only fear me. But you, Daniel, you can command me. Break the seal, and no power in the stars will stop us." The ship shuddered under another blast. Sparks rained from the ceiling. Daniel stood before the relic, hand hovering over its glowing seam. His heart pounded. The voices of his crew filled his mind. Some pleaded for survival, others for caution. The glow burned hotter, as if waiting for his choice. Outside, the Dominion's fleet prepared their final strike. The cage of ships closed tighter, weapons aimed at the Aurora. Daniel clenched his fist. His voice was a whisper, but steady. "Not yet. Not until the last moment. You will not control me." The sarcophagus pulsed once more, almost in approval, as if patient with his defiance. Back on the bridge, Anya spun the ship with desperate skill, diving between enemy fire. Mara worked frantically to reroute power to the shields. Lena cursed with every blast, yet kept firing. Tomasz held on, his young face pale but determined. They were only humans in a small salvage ship, facing an empire's fleet. But they did not surrender. And deep inside the Aurora, the endless night waited, its hunger growing, its bargain still open. The stars burned with war. The Aurora twisted through fire, chased by the Dominion fleet. Every blast shook its fragile frame. Shields flickered, metal groaned, and alarms screamed through the ship. On the bridge, the crew held on with shaking hands. Mara's voice cracked with strain. "Shields are gone. Hull damage spreading across 3 sectors. We cannot take another hit." Anya pulled the ship into a hard roll, narrowly avoiding a beam of white fire. "I am flying as hard as I can. They are everywhere." Lena slammed her fist against the console. "We cannot win like this. Either we surrender or we use what is in that box." Her eyes darted to the cargo bay door as if she could already feel the pulse of the sarcophagus. Tomasz, young but fierce, shook his head. "No. If we open it, we lose ourselves. We survive only as long as we stay human. That coffin is not salvation. It is chains." The argument struck Daniel hardest. He stood silent, gaze locked on the stars ahead. He knew both were right. The Dominion would not stop until they were destroyed. But if he chose the relic, there might be no way back. Humanity's fate might be bound forever to the endless night. The ship jolted again as another beam tore across its hull. Mara's voice rang out. "Hull breach in Section 4. We are venting air." Daniel slammed his hand against the armrest. Seal it. Keep the rest of the ship alive. Anya's hands moved fast, sweat dripping from her brow. The ship swerved through another opening, but more Dominion ships closed in. They had the Aurora surrounded. The comm system blared once more. The cold voice of the Dominion filled the bridge. This is your final warning, human vessel. Release the sarcophagus. It was not meant for your kind. If you resist further, you will be erased from existence. The crew looked to Daniel. Their captain, their last hope. He rose slowly, eyes sharp with fire. Mute them, he said. Mara obeyed. Silence returned. Daniel spoke, his voice heavy but steady. Listen to me. We have carried this relic across the stars. We have faced storms, silence, and fire. Now we face an empire that wants us gone. Ask yourselves this. Why do they fear us with it? Why do they chase us with such desperation? They are not just trying to protect the galaxy. They are trying to keep us in chains. His words struck deep. For ages, Daniel continued, humanity has been told we are too small, too weak. We are scavengers of the stars, crawling between giants. But today we stand with something they cannot control. Something that frightens them. Maybe it is dangerous, maybe it is cursed, but it is ours now. Our choice, not theirs. The crew exchanged looks. Tomasz clenched his fists with resolve. Lena's anger softened into thought. Even Mara, the most cautious, nodded slowly. Anya gave a faint smile, though her hands never left the controls. So what is our choice, Captain? Daniel looked toward the cargo bay. He could feel the sarcophagus pulsing like a second heart inside the ship. We use it. But on our terms. Not as slaves, not as fools. As humans. The crew followed him to the cargo bay. The great coffin glowed brighter than ever, its markings blazing like fire etched into stone. The mist curled across the floor as they gathered around. The voice rose, louder, clearer than ever. At last. Break my seal and your enemies will fall. Your chains will shatter. Together we will rise. Daniel stepped closer, his shadow stretching across the glowing surface. His hand hovered over the seam, but he did not touch it yet. He spoke aloud, his voice firm. You want freedom. You want release. But hear me, endless night. You do not command us. If we open you, it is not because we bow to you. It is because humanity chooses its own fate. The relic pulsed harder, almost like a heartbeat in answer. Lena raised her weapon. What if it turns on us the moment it is free? Daniel met her eyes. Then we fight it, the same way we fight the Dominion. We do not bow. Not to empires. Not to gods. Not to nightmares. Silence fell. The ship shook again as Dominion fire tore into its hull. The alarms screamed louder. They had only seconds before the end. Daniel pressed his hand to the seam. The markings blazed with white fire. The mist thickened, rushing outward like smoke pulled into a storm. The sarcophagus cracked with a sound like thunder. Light burst through the cracks, flooding the cargo bay with blinding brilliance. The crew shielded their eyes. Then the lid exploded open. From within rose a figure of shadow and light, tall and terrible, but shaped like a man. Its eyes glowed like burning stars. Its voice thundered without sound, filling every mind at once. I am the endless night. I was bound by liars, by cowards who feared my power. But you, humans, you dare to free me. You dare to stand against empires. You are bold. The crew felt its presence pressing against their thoughts, heavy as a storm. Yet Daniel stood tall, unflinching. We did not free you to serve you. We freed you to fight beside us. If you betray us, we will face you as we face the Dominion. With everything we have. The shadow figure tilted its head, as if amused. You are strange. Other races beg for power. You threaten me instead. Perhaps that is why they fear you. Perhaps that is why you interest me. Outside, the Dominion fleet closed for the final strike. Their ships charged weapons, beams glowing bright. The endless night raised its arms. Space itself seemed to shiver. Darkness poured outward from the coffin, spreading like a storm across the stars. The Dominion's beams fired, but the light bent, swallowed by the void. Their weapons dimmed as if the night itself had eaten them. The crew of the Aurora stared in awe. The small salvage ship still drifted fragile and broken, yet the Dominion's fleet faltered before them. The endless night turned its burning gaze upon Daniel. Your enemies fear me. But I ask you again, human. Do you fear me? Daniel did not look away. His voice was steady. I fear nothing that stands in front of me. Only the chains behind me. As long as you do not bind us, I will stand with you. But the choice is ours, not yours. The figure's glowing eyes narrowed. Then it laughed, a sound like stars breaking. Very well. Let us test this new alliance. The Dominion ships fired again, but the endless night swept its hand, and the blasts scattered like dust in the wind. The void itself bent under its command. The Aurora, broken yet alive, sailed forward under human hands. And for the first time in countless ages, the endless night fought not as a master, but as an ally. Humanity's choice had been made. The Dominion fleet spread across the stars like a wall of fire. Dozens of their ships circled the broken Aurora, weapons glowing, ready to crush the humans once and for all. Yet in the center of the storm, the sarcophagus stood open, and from it the endless night towered like a god reborn. The crew felt the weight of its presence, yet something had changed. The figure of shadow and light no longer radiated only hunger and fury. It radiated choice, as if it was watching to see what humanity would do with the power it had unleashed. On the bridge, alarm still screamed. Mara's voice shook as she checked the panels. Engines are almost gone. Shields are dead. If not for that thing outside, we would already be dust. Anya gripped the flight controls, eyes darting over the stars. If it turns on us, we cannot run. We are out of fuel. We are out of time. Tomash, leaning on his weapon, spoke with a mix of awe and fear. But look at it. The Dominion is terrified. For the first time, they hesitate. Lena crossed her arms. They will not hesitate for long. They will throw everything they have. The only question is whether we stand with that creature or fall with honor. Daniel stood in silence for a long moment. His eyes burned with resolve. We do not fall today. Not like this. We stand, and we make the galaxy remember that humans do not bow. Not to empires. Not to gods. We choose. The endless night turned its blazing eyes upon him, and a voice thundered in every mind. Then choose now, Captain. I can end them in one breath. I can erase their fleet as easily as I erase shadows. But once I strike, there will be no return. The galaxy will know humans and the endless night stand as one. Every empire will come for you. The crew looked at one another. They knew the truth. If they refused, the Dominion would kill them within minutes. If they agreed, they might survive, but the cost would be eternal. Daniel lifted his chin. We do not ask you to erase them for us. We ask you to stand with us, just this once, as equals. Let the galaxy see not slaves, not masters, but allies. The endless night tilted its head. For a heartbeat, silence filled the stars. Then it raised its hand, and darkness spread outward like wings. The Dominion fired. Hundreds of beams of light streaked across the void. Yet the darkness bent, wrapped, and crushed them. The beams vanished like sparks in water. Then, with a wave of its hand, the endless night sent a shock through the fleet. Dominion ships spun, engines stuttered, and weapons dimmed. But the endless night did not destroy them. Instead, it pulled the enemy fleet into silence. The Dominion commander's voice cut through comms, sharp with panic. "What are you? What bargain have the humans made?" Daniel stepped forward, his voice steady as iron. "We made no bargain. We made a choice. Humanity stands free. Remember this moment. You feared us when we were weak. Now you see us when we are strong. We will not surrender. We will not break. Go back to your masters and tell them, the age of chains is ending." The Dominion hesitated. For the first time, the Empire turned its ships away. One by one, the great vessels powered down their weapons and began to retreat into the depths of space. The bridge of the Aurora erupted in disbelief. Mara's voice cracked. "They are pulling back. They are actually leaving." Anya let out a long breath. "We should be dead, but we are still here." Tomash grinned, eyes blazing. "We faced an empire and lived. History will remember this day." Lena, still cautious, turned to Daniel. "But what happens now? The Dominion will not forgive. They will return. And the other empires will see us as dangerous." Daniel looked at the shadow figure that still stood outside the ship. The endless night's eyes glowed, waiting for his answer. "What happens now depends on us. Do we hide? Do we run? Or do we stand and show the galaxy that humans do not need to be feared, only respected?" The endless night spoke, its voice softer now. "You remind me of what I once was. Long ago, I too sought freedom, not rule. But the galaxy feared me, and they locked me in chains. You freed me. You dared to speak to me as equal. For that, I give you this gift. Not slavery. Not destruction. A chance." It spread its hands, and the sarcophagus dissolved into starlight. The mist lifted, the weight of its power easing. The figure began to fade, its form melting into the void. Daniel stepped forward. "Where are you going?" The voice echoed like a whisper across the stars. "I am not your master. I am not your weapon. I am your shadow, watching. Call me if you must, and I will come. But remember, humans, freedom is not given. It is taken." Then it was gone. The endless night vanished into the black, leaving only silence. For a long time, no one on the Aurora spoke. The ship drifted, wounded and broken, but alive. The crew looked at one another, the weight of history heavy on their shoulders. At last, Daniel spoke. "We survived because we chose. We chose not to bow. That choice will guide us now. We will repair this ship. We will carry word back to Earth. And we will be ready, because the galaxy will come. But when it does, it will not find us begging. It will find us standing." The crew nodded, one by one. Even weary and bloodied, hope flickered in their eyes. Mara managed a small smile. "Then let us set course for home." Anya's hands moved gently over the controls, coaxing the broken engines to life. The ship shuddered, but the stars began to move again. Slowly, the Aurora turned toward the long road back to human space. As they sailed through the endless night, a strange peace settled over them. They had seen something no other race had seen. They had faced the dominion of empires, the wrath of forgotten gods, and still they endured. The stars stretched wide and endless before them. Humanity's future was uncertain, but it was theirs to shape. And in the black beyond, unseen but near, a presence lingered. The endless night, once a prisoner, now free. Watching. Waiting. Not as a master, not as a curse, but as a shadow walking beside mankind. For the first time in ages, the galaxy trembled not because of what humanity feared, but because of what humanity could become. The dawn after darkness had begun.